One guy is happily
It's the
divorced.
Full Court
One guy
Press
is
with
happily
Eric
married.
Franson
One guy
and
gets
Jason
called
Walker.
Daddy
Welcome
by
back
his
to the
three beautiful
to the show that we're doing right
One
now.
guy gets called Daddy
Following
after
the
a
local
credit card
teams,
approval.
breaking
One
down
guy
the
won a
biggest
state high
games
school
with in-depth
basketball
analysis
championship.
and
One
team
guy
interview.
covered
Join the
a
show
state
by
high
calling
school
into
basketball championship. One guy does voiceovers for fast food chains.
435-752-1069
One
or
guy
text
only eats fast food. Does this seem weird to anybody else?
435-339-0321. It's the Full
Can
Court
this
Press.
sports writer and this sportsman share a radio show without driving each other crazy? Now, live from the Fox Sports Radio studios, here's Fox Sports Radio's Odd Couple, Rob Parker and Calvin Washington. Password.
Welcome on in to the Full Court Press. We may have had the show intro cut off because I forgot to run one of the macros to make sure that our show played instead of Fox Sports. So hopefully he didn't make you think that we weren't going to be back for the second hour. Jason Walker here. Eric Franson on his way to Utah State football practice. He was the reason I was able to. He texted saying he heard the Fox Sports opening. But thank you for joining us here on a Tuesday. And N35, we did have Fox interference on the show, but that was more my own inability to run the board properly. Because Eric normally runs the board. He knows how to do this. And I also know how to do it, but I almost never do it properly. We talked about the Utah State-New Mexico matchup primarily in the first hour. We're going to be getting into that a lot more this week. Specific matchups. I've been diving into some of the stats. Of course, I'll also be heading off to Mountain West Media Day tomorrow. I'll actually be flying out to Las Vegas. Have a chance to focus on basketball season as that's beginning. Utah State has another exhibition this Friday or Saturday? It's the 25th or 26th. That'll be 25th. That's this Saturday. So we'll be checking in on that as well. But obviously a lot of emotions for this upcoming New Mexico game. But as I've been wont to do whenever Eric leaves me alone, of course I'm leaving him alone for 3 days, wanted to go over my own power rankings for football. Haven't done it in, I think, a week or two. I know we had JD on. We were able to talk some of the topics between ourselves, but wanted to go kind of reset things. Where are the teams now? Where is Utah State? Where are they in relation to New Mexico, at least according to my own power rankings? Who are the contending teams in the conference? We've had some teams go back and forth, up and down. Utah State's kind of been up and down, so where are they after a couple up and down weeks? And so this is where I would put each of the teams in the Mountain West. We'll start at the bottom. That's the most dramatic order to go into. And at number 12, we got Nevada, who's basically been the bottom team for like the entire season. This is a Nevada team that has continued to struggle. But the interesting thing is that they are playing better these last few weeks than they have for most of the season. They still lost pretty much every single game, save for the Sacramento State one, which they probably should have lost that one too. But they lost 24-22 at New Mexico. They did get blown out by San Diego State at home, 44-10, but then they have the 20-17 loss at Fresno State. So is this a team that's playing significantly better? And they've made a key change in this time span. They have gone to freshman quarterback Carter Jones, who now in his time on the field is completing 65% of his passes for 517 yards. Good for almost 7 yards per attempt. And then he has an even 3-to-3 touchdown to interception ratio. The college passer rating of 128.4, whereas the other guys who've been out on the court or on the field, Chubba Purdy, who's been out there for the most part, he was only completing 52% of his passes, and he'd thrown 1 touchdown to 8 interceptions. Usually you want that to be the other way around. But Carter Jones having the Wolfpack a little closer in games, but I don't know if he's making that big a difference because they were still scoring roughly the same number of points. They scored 17 against Fresno State. That was roughly the same they'd scored against. They scored 11 against Penn State. 13 against Middle Tennessee, 16 against Western Kentucky. I think it's 22 against New Mexico. I suppose that's that's their season high in points. So they're closer in some of these games, but honestly, their defense might have as much to do with that as anything else, where they've played decently well. So Nevada may be playing better, and that's something to keep an eye on for when the Aggies face them. They'll host them in their penultimate home game on November 8th, the Aggies' penultimate home game. And it's like, all right, is Nevada going to present a tougher challenge? Where that's kind of the win that the Aggies have penciled in. Like they need 2 more wins for bowl eligibility. That's the one they pencil in. Then, all right, you got to get one against New Mexico, UNLV, Fresno, or Boise. So which one can you get it against? So that's an interesting thing to keep an eye on. Then at number 11, we've got Colorado State. Probably would have jumped them up a little bit higher after that win over Fresno State, but Fresno State not looking as good. And it also very much appears to be a 1-week wonder, as Colorado State then loses to Hawaii the week after. They fire Jay Norvell. The Rams are 2-5 on the season, 1-2 in conference play, and just not looking particularly great. I could maybe put them a little bit higher depending on where you'd want to put Air Force or San Jose State or some of these teams, but Colorado State just looking rough. But their interim coach is going to get a nice, a nice chance to make his case for being a head coach with going up against Wyoming this week in a big rivalry game. Number 10, well, the team that Colorado State is facing, Wyoming. Losing to Air Force got the offensive coordinator fired, and a loss to Colorado State may very well get Jay Sawfell fired. Things are just not going well for for Wyoming. They can't seem to get the offense really rolling. The defense is playing good. Like they have a decent defense, but they just cannot seem to get, a quality offense going, and scoring, only 21 against that Air Force defense, a team that has maybe the worst pass defense I've ever seen in my life. They've been allowing opposing teams to throw for 300 plus passing yards on the regular. And Caden Anderson had 200. And it's like, you've got to be doing better than that. And so Wyoming just absolutely struggling mightily right now. That win over San Jose is probably the only thing that has Jay Sawfell keeping his job, because otherwise they'd be on a 5-game losing streak. With most of their games having not scored more than 21 points. Then moving up to number 9, we got Air Force, the team that just beat Wyoming. Really like the offense overall. The game against Wyoming was like the first time that Liam Zarka hadn't had like 300 plus yards of total offense. He's honestly probably the most underrated offensive player in the conference. It's just their defense is terrible. If their defense was anywhere close to what their last 5-6 years, last year accepted, or heck, even last year, they're actually still fairly decent. But if their defense is anything resembling what they have been in the past, this might very well be the top team in the conference with the way this offense is capable of playing. But with the defense that bad, you just can't rely on Air Force to beat almost anybody. They did finally get their first win over an FBS team. This last week was their first win over an FBS team. So Air Force they've got coming in at number 9 on these power rankings. Number 8, got New Mexico. And I mentioned this earlier in the show, where New Mexico is a team where they started off pretty decently. They start 3-1, wins over Idaho State, UCLA, and New Mexico State. All fairly convincing wins. Maybe it was a little closer than you would have liked against Idaho State for a little longer than you would have liked. But they get a 10-point win. You get a 25-point win over UCLA, and that was probably more impressive at the time, where UCLA was maybe going to be an okay team. Turns out they're terrible, I guess, outside of that win over Penn State that partly got James Franklin fired. That was still a solid win over New Mexico State by 18. It's like, I was a New Mexico team that had a lot of hope that they were going to be at least a decent team, a bowl eligible team, but then they lose to San Jose. And that was a pretty rough one, because then they go to Boise State and get their butts kicked by, Boise State. They stayed closer in that game than I think most people expected, but some would attribute that more to maybe Boise State sleepwalking as opposed to New Mexico actually playing well. And so Boise State ends up pulling off, I think I was doing the math in my head, a 16-point win. But then they get, maybe just what the doctor ordered in a home game against Nevada. Except they barely beat Nevada 24-22. And so basically I have 3 straight games of New Mexico underperforming. Maybe they slightly overperformed against Boise. But still not living up to what they had in the first 4 games. And so recent sample size has me a little more skeptical of New Mexico. Obviously, this week against Utah State, I consider the two teams very well evenly matched. So New Mexico could very easily step back in the right direction by getting a win. No matter the margin, if they get a win, they're going in the positive direction. So I've got New Mexico at number 8. That's my bottom 5 in the conference. Then I've got the San Jose Spartans, and maybe I should flip New Mexico and San Jose. Part of me kind of wants to, especially because later I have a team that lost the head-to-head but is ranked directly ahead of another team. But basically with San Jose, this is a team that I think has some good qualities but just hasn't been able to put it together. They've been close in every single one of their games save for against Texas. They're just not putting it together as much as you think as much as they probably should be able to. So it's a team that could easily jump into the top half of the conference. And again, New Mexico is the same way. Just stack a couple of wins together. And San Jose is going to have that opportunity. They got Hawaii, Air Force, and Nevada all in a row. So those are teams that they can beat. Will they? We'll find out. But this is maybe the easiest 3-game stretch for any team in the Mountain West. And San Jose's got to be able to take advantage of it. And heck, they can dang near get to bowl eligibility if they win all 3 of them. They'd be 5-5 at that point. Be a heck of a turnaround. So there's San Jose and San Jose State. And then we go to number 6. We're jumping into the top half of the conference. And Utah State coming in at number 6. I'm not sure. You've got people texting saying they're not hearing my voice on the radio, and I'm not sure why. Because I got to try and figure out what's going on here. Let's go ahead and actually take a break. So I'm going to try and figure this out. We'll be back after this here on the Full Court Press.
Ski season is coming, which means season ski rentals. This is Mark at the Sportsman, where we have over 20 years of season ski rental experience. We rent to kids and adults. Come in to get season ski rentals for your entire family. We like to wait a little later in the fall because there is a chance your kids might grow out of their boots by the time ski season actually rolls around. You will get the right gear for your kids to ski this year at the Sportsman on Main Street in downtown Logan, with tons of parking in the back.
No matter what the conditions, DD Auto and Salvage can get your vehicle up and off your property. Now is the time to plan to make extra cash by calling DD Auto and Salvage and moving that old vehicle. Let them pay you for that junk vehicle. DD Auto and Salvage makes it so easy to get rid of your junker vehicles, paying you the most money possible. If you have metal, DD Auto and Salvage in Logan wants to pay you today. Call 787-1204.
That's 787-1204 today.
See store for details.
Looking for a luxurious local space to host your next gathering? The Hive Event Center in downtown Logan brings modern elegance to your wedding, private party, or business event. Your guests will be amazed at the glamorous design, and you'll benefit from the advanced tech included in every rental, from DIY parties to full-service packages. 255 South Main in Logan behind Beehive Grill. Luxury lives here. The Hive is your place to gather.
Luxury lives here. Luxury lives here. The Hive.
See us online at thehivelogan.com.
Cache Valley Ear, Nose, and Throat is thrilled to welcome Dr. Jackson Deere to their team of trusted specialists. Dr. Deere joins Doctors Blotter and Robinette to provide exceptional medical and surgical care for your ears, nose, throat, and related structures of the head and neck. Appointments are now available. Whether it's allergies, hearing, or sinus concerns, Cache Valley ENT is here to help you live the life you deserve. Welcome Dr. Deere to Cache Valley and the team at Cache Valley Ear, Nose, and Throat, now serving Logan, Providence, Tremont, Preston, and Montpelier.
Click this link now to review my bank transfer. I didn't make a bank transfer. Ugh, another phishing message. Are you frustrated by these too? So much of our lives are online today. To make sure my information is protected, I checked out CISA's Secure Our World resources. They've got 4 simple ways we can stay safe online. First, learn to recognize and report phishing. Next, create a strong, unique password for each online account. And use a password manager if you can. Then turn on multi-factor authentication for extra security and you'll receive a code when logging in. And finally, turn on automatic software updates for convenience and safety. Click here to track my delivery. Another phishing message. But now I know how to protect myself from scammers, and you can learn too. Go to CISA at cisa.gov/secure our world for more quick, easy tips to be safer online.
Following the local teams, it's the Full Court Press with Eric Franson and Jason Walker.
All right, welcome back to the Full Court Press. Minor crisis. I had to go to break and I had to go talk to the engineers. Apparently some got bumped or something happened. But thanks to the text line for letting me know I was off air. Got it. I think it only went about a minute before noticing the text line there. Because I was using the computer for my notes. And also those telling me the stream was fine. So those of you who heard the stream, didn't have the same interruption those on radio, but from both the text line and Eric was also texting me earlier, the radio signal should be back on. So thank you for your patience. We should be on both over the air on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan, as well as streaming online, 1069thefan.com, and the mobile app as well. So, minor technical issues aside, we can get back to what we were doing. So we're going to have to combine a couple of, because I was supposed to go for only a few more minutes before shifting to a break and then talking about an interesting topic. And actually, I'll give a quick plug before resuming my power rankings, because I was about to go from number 7, San Jose State, and I was getting started on Utah State at number 6. But in a little bit here, we're going to be talking about the best individual seasons for Utah State in men's basketball history. There are some interesting, analytics data that came out looking at the top 30 seasons in NCAA basketball since like 2009. And there's a former Aggie on that list coming in at number 14. If you're following me on Twitter, you would have seen that, who that was. And heck, it made its way around Aggie social media earlier today, stuff from EvanMiya.com. But feel free to text in 435-339-0321. Who you think has had some of the best seasons in college basketball for Utah State? Obviously, the data we're going to be looking at is kind of isolated from 2009, so that excludes, Wayne Estes, J.C. Carroll, a bunch of Aggie greats. But you'll see some Sam Merrill, Nemish Keto, whatnot, and some other Aggie greats. So feel free to text in your thoughts there, but we'll finish up talking about these power rankings, where I think everyone in the Mountain West is and who I think the true contenders are. And then we'll get to Utah State basketball, those best players. It'll basically be the top 10 individual seasons according to analytics, basically, at least one analytical model. So let's get back into it. Mountain West power rankings in football before we shift to basketball. So I had Utah State at number 6. And I think I'm still on the optimistic side of this, because there are still some significant worries over the Hawaii loss. Some of the things you see against San Jose where you're giving up a ton of yards, it was a really nice positive. They gave up those yards but didn't give up a ton of points. That is a step in the right direction. And it's somewhat akin to how the game against Air Force went, where there was a lot of yards allowed in that one, but the Aggies made the plays when they had to, especially on offense, but also on defense. And so I think Utah State, with the right push and the right improvement, can be a team that's mathematically in the realm of a Mountain West title up until the last few weeks. I don't think they're going to have a fun time in that trio of games against UNLV, Fresno, and Boise. But I think they're a team that can kind of stick around, but they still need to make the right push forward. And the game against New Mexico, getting a win there, especially a convincing win, would go a long way toward pushing them ahead, maybe even ahead of some of the teams that I've got ahead of them on the power rankings. Starting with number 5 and a team that's actually been falling the last few weeks, and that is Fresno State. This is a team that I once considered kind of a sneaky Mountain West title contender. And now in the last 3 results, I'm not nearly as optimistic about that. Now, the loss to Hawaii looks a lot better. The win over Hawaii. It was a narrow win over Hawaii. I kind of held it against Fresno a few weeks ago. But now it's not looking nearly as close loss, they should have won by more type game. It's a close win over a good team. But still, then you go on and, you get rocked by Colorado State of all teams, at Colorado State last week, but then barely beating Nevada at home. Those are 2 worrying results. And now that they've happened back to back, and where they now have 3 straight games of not scoring more than 23 points. This is a team that scored 42 against Georgia Southern, 36 at Oregon State, and then 56 in an FCS game. So they've been averaging, something like 40 odd points over a 3-week span. Now they're averaging 23 points. It's actually like 22 points, I think, even. Against 3 teams that I wouldn't say have the most remarkable defenses in the world. Although Hawaii's defense is decently solid. So give them some credit there. But yeah, just not the greatest 3-game stretch for Fresno. I still consider them one of the better teams, but my confidence in them is greatly shaken. Let's move on to number 4. And this is the kind of the controversial one because Fresno beat Hawaii, but I have Hawaii ranked 4th over Fresno. And this is where maybe there's recency bias. I look at the last 2 weeks, I see Hawaii playing really well. Maybe you want to do transitive property where Hawaii beat Colorado State, Colorado State beats Fresno, but still the head-to-head exists. And, Fresno beat Hawaii at Hawaii. So there's an argument that you could flip Hawaii and Fresno. And I'd be willing to listen to that. But I like Hawaii's recent trajectory more than I like Fresno's recent trajectory. So that's where I have Hawaii a lot higher than I ever thought I'd put them. But here they are. I have them 4th in the conference. Then at number 3, we've got UNLV. This is a team that I've had grudgingly at number 1, on and off for the last several weeks. Finally, they get exposed the way I've kind of been expecting, where, they go up to play Boise State and they absolutely get rocked. They lose that one 56-31. I know Dan Mullen was kind of throwing shade about how Boise State apparently had to change the way they play defense, but it's like, look, Boise State won that one scoring 56 points and UNLV only scoring 31. Decent offense, but the defense absolutely on the struggle bus there. So UNLV just basically kind of the upgraded version of Air Force, where they have a good offense and a shaky defense. Heck, Utah State's actually kind of that way too, as I kind of forget. Several teams in this conference. Heck, San Jose's kind of that way too, where they're basically just the best version of the really good offense, kind of shaky defense. Where out of all those teams, they probably have the best defense and maybe have the best offense. And so that puts UNLV in conference contention, technically. And I mean, they only have one loss overall at all, and only one loss in conference play. But they're basically on upset alert every single week because every single team is bringing their best, thinking, hey, we can win this game. And UNLV is almost losing every single week until last week when they finally did lose. So we'll keep an eye on them. They're still going to be one of the top teams in the conference, but again, confidence shaken in their ability to be a true contender. At number 2, finally putting San Diego State up there. This is a team that I've started to kind of jump on the bandwagon a little bit, where they've shaken off some early season offensive issues, and now they're looking pretty good. They've scored 45 against Colorado State and 44 in their most recent game against Nevada. They were off this last week. They were on a bye. They will be at Fresno State for a game where they could truly solidify themselves as a contender. But they're on a 4-game win streak. And where I harped on their offensive struggles, where they scored 13 against Washington, 6 against Northern Illinois, but they had 34 points against California. Granted, I think 14 of those were on defense, 14 defensive points, but still solid outing. And then the last 2 games in conference play, their offense has exploded as well. So I think San Diego State should be one of the favorites to be in the conference title game. Obviously this week at Fresno State. And then if in a few weeks, November 15th, when they take on Boise State, that'll be a pretty good game as well. And then finally, number 1, Boise State. Hard to argue with that after that win over UNLV. Boise's really only slip-ups have been against good teams. They lost to USF. That's a good team, or ranked. They lost to Notre Dame, who I think might still be ranked. Yeah, they're 12th. They've jumped up. Excuse me. For some reason, I thought they were close to dropping out of the poll. Haven't been keeping track. They're on a 5-game win streak after starting 0-2. And just barely beat USC, who was ranked. So, that's Boise State's 2 losses to a pair of ranked teams, where South Florida is ranked 18th and Notre Dame is ranked 12th. They didn't really look great in either of those. They get beat 34-7 against South Florida and 28-7 against Notre Dame, but this is still a good Boise State team and should be, I think, them with San Diego State. Those are the 2 kind of class of the conference that at this point, if I were picking who's getting into the title game, it's those 2. But the fact they play each other could shake up some of the math a little bit. We'll see exactly how that goes. So those are my Mountain West Power Rankings in order. Once again, before we shift topics once again, Boise State 1, San Diego State 2, UNLV 3, Hawaii 4, Fresno 5, Utah State 6, San Jose 7, New Mexico 8, Air Force 9, Wyoming 10, Colorado State 11, and Nevada number 12. Couple of texts. We had one from 9315 earlier because there was one before everything kind of went to crap. We're talking about Bronco Mendenhall last hour, 9315, I think, following up kind of on that conversation, saying, is Bronco not considered the head of the snake for the football team, which means the rest of the body would follow? He's a pretty even keeled guy, so there shouldn't be a lot of emotion in this game on the USU side, correct? Yeah, I think, and that's one thing where we briefly touched on this in the first hour with Bronco Mendenhall, where it's like, or with the Utah State, like the emotions of this game are very much the New Mexico fans. And does that carry over to the New Mexico players? I think it will to a degree, because the fan base will very much rub off on the players. Like, they're part of that community. They understand that there's a lot of that emotion. They understand the stakes of this game, and they want to obviously please the crowd. They're going to be up for this game, I think, in a lot of ways. Utah State, we'll see, because it's tricky, because with Utah State, there are some New Mexico players that are on this team, but are they going to have that same, like, they're not out for revenge. They willingly left New Mexico for the most part. They were following Bronco Mendenhall to Utah State. So I don't know if Utah State is really going to have a whole lot of emotion as players, and most teams try to play even keel anyway. I think it's the emotions of this game for the players are going to come down to one, just base competitiveness, and then basically whatever rubs off from the fans in a really short amount of time to the players, because New Mexico fans are desperate to win this game. Utah State fans really want to win this game more so than others, because there are emotional stakes for Utah State fans, not nearly as high as New Mexico, but Aggie fans don't want to lose to Lobo fans. Specifically, don't want to lose to Lobos. Not like Utah State fans ever want to lose, but there is more tension in that they don't want to lose to New Mexico, for somewhat similar reasons to why New Mexico doesn't want to lose to Utah State, though not exact. So there's the answer there. 6436 saying, good analysis, Jason. He's talking about the power rankings. Text that in right at the end there. And saying, would you recommend buying tickets and going to the UNLV game? Upset option against the Rebels. Well, I think it'll be a close game. I think I'd still predict a win for Utah State, but with the way UNLV has often been allowing points, like that very well could be an upset option. Like, and UNLV has kept it close against everybody. Teams you think they would be blowing out, they're letting him keep close. So if you want a good game, I mean, I think it'll be a good one. So if you've got the money to be able to buy that one, to buy the tickets there, make the trip, or if you're living in Las Vegas, I think it'll be a good game. If for no other reason than that UNLV is always playing in close games. I can't guarantee Utah State's going to win, but I think it'll be a pretty close game. So let's dive into this next topic here, and that is best seasons in recent, Utah State men's basketball history, individual seasons to be specific. And this was something that was interesting that I saw from EvanMiya, if I'm saying his name right. Analytics, kind of one of the recent entrants into the analytics space, but I think certainly a really good one. He's one that I go to for player metrics. I think he has one of the most comprehensive player metrics for ranking different players, where they're at. I've mentioned them on the show before. They also got team rankings, things like that. And so basically they're rating BPR. I forget how to pronounce the first word in BPR. It's a performance rating. That's what the PR stands for, is performance rating. But he released the top 30 individual seasons for men's basketball players since 2009. His database goes back to 2009, at least that he has these specific stats for. And so he released that. And there was a Utah State player that shows up on that list. Number one was actually Zach Edey's 2003-2004 season. Cooper Flagg was number 2 on that list with his year last year. Funnily enough, another person from the state of Utah, DeLon Wright from 2014-2015 shows up there. You also got Zion Williamson in there. Anthony Davis shows up. Zach Edey shows up again. Chet Holmgren, heck, Trey Burke, Draymond Green, Kemba Walker. Like, you get a bunch of players in this range, good players, guys who made big impacts for their teams. But coming in at number 14 on this list for his 2009-2010 season, Tai Wesley. So of the last, again, this is 15, 16 seasons, basically, however, since 2009. He has a 14th best individual season, which, funnily enough, while Tai Wesley did win an Conference Player of the Year, he did not win it that season. Luke Babbitt, I think, won it for the WAC that year. So Tai Wesley, even though he has a top 15 season in the last 15 years, did not win Conference Player of the Year. I should probably check how many of these players did win Conference Player of the Year. A decent chunk of them, I bet, did. You got a lot of good players in here. All of them would have been all conference, but I'm wondering how many would have actually won Conference Player of the Year. Because those are the ones that this particular analytics rating says are the best individual seasons. But this got me thinking, what are the best seasons individually from Utah State over, again, in the same time span. And so I decided to use EvanMiya's rankings, player rankings, going throughout the entire range of years. So again, we're staying in the since 2009 time range, saying what are the best seasons for an individual Utah State player? Well, Tai Wesley obviously comes in at number 1. What are the other ones? So I basically went with a top 10. And these were the top 10 seasons by Utah State men's basketball players. So starting at number 10, you have Darius Brown with the 10th best. I think he was just outside the top 100 nationally. And so that's obviously the one season with Darius Brown. Then you have Sam Merrill, his 2017-18 season, his sophomore year, coming in as the 9th best season for an Aggie in the last 16 years. Justin Bean, I believe this was his junior year, 2019-2020, the COVID season, or the season that was ended by COVID prematurely. He comes in at the 8th best season. You have another Tai Wesley season. This is the year he won Conference Player of the Year, but it's ranked as the 7th best by this analytical model. And then as we get into some of the top ones, you have another Justin Bean season, his senior season, where he was actually 24th nationally in this performance rating metric. Then you have Stephen Ashworth, who was actually 26th nationally in 2022-23, his season where he averaged 17 points for the Aggies as a junior. So that comes in at number 5. Then at number 3 and number 4, you have a pair of Sam Merrill seasons. In 2018-19, he was 37th nationally. And then in the 2019-20 season, he was an All-American that year, and he was 11th nationally, according to this performance rating. And then at number 2, you've got Neemias Queta. The year after Sam Merrill leaves, he takes over for the team. He was top 10, 9th nationally. Probably could have been an All-American himself. He averaged, I think it was 14 points. I went back and was looking at some of these seasons statistically and remembering that Neemias Queta averaged 14 points, 10 rebounds, and almost 3.5 blocks. It was 3.3 blocks per game. And he didn't win Conference Player of the Year, which was a travesty. He should have been the Conference Player of the Year that season. And then, of course, number 1, I've already spoiled it 2 or 3 times over, Tai Wesley. Again, 14th best nationally for all years. And he was actually only 2nd that year, where he wasn't, by this performance rating, even though he's 14th overall, he was 2nd nationally that year. John Shayer of Duke was actually a couple spots. He was 1 spot ahead of him that year, a couple spots ahead of him on that, again, last 15, 16 years list. So I guess the question is, you have that top 10 according to this one individual metric. And I think if you were ranking all these seasons, that's probably pretty close to where I'd have them. I mean, Tai Wesley making it up there, like, that's very much an analytics thing because he averaged like 13 points and 6 rebounds or something like that year. He did not have a statistically dominant season, but in terms of the analytics and his possession by possession impact, very much a star for the Aggies. An eventual Aggie Hall of Famer as he was inducted in 2022. But like, the since 2009 timeframe, like Neemias Queta's 2020-2021 season, Sam Merrill's 2019-20 season, like those are probably your top 2. And after that, like, Grant Osborne, I think, was just outside the top 10. But like Kim, Darius Brown, one of the Justin Bean seasons, like that's pretty much who's making up your top 10 in my mind. But where do they fit in for all-time seasons? You have Wayne Estes. I suddenly forgot his name. Wayne Estes. Where does some of Wayne Estes' seasons fit in with some of these recent modern Aggie greats? The seasons from Marv Roberts, Greg Grant, J.C. Carroll obviously had some spectacular ones. Just maybe think where you'd put them in. Like, would any of these modern, players still be in the top 5 for individual seasons if we're including guys like Wayne Estes, J.C. Carroll, even Tai Wesley? I think there's a debate, but I think that Sam Merrill and Neemias Queta would certainly find a comfortable home inside the top 5 or so in terms of individual seasons. 5822 on this topic. Will Tai Wesley get his jersey retired? I would think I would think he'd be able to. We're going to see about whether or not, Sam Merrill and Nemish can get their jersey retired. But I mean, they only retired J.C. Carroll's number like last year. Was it last year or 2 years ago? I'm suddenly forgetting the timeline and confusing the J.C. Carroll retirement, the jersey retirement with Stu Morrill's, the naming of Stu Morrill Court. I'm confusing those two events in which year they happened in, or maybe they happened in the same year. But yeah, they did J.C. Carroll's when he retired from playing, and I guess, did Tai Wesley, is he finally done with pro basketball? I can't remember if he's done with pro basketball. I thought he retired in the last couple of years. I'd have to try and remember. I'm pretty sure he's retired. Because I know he was playing internationally, but I don't know. Yeah, he hasn't played for several years. I would think he should probably have his jersey retired. I know there's always a lot of players that are on the fringe, but this is a dude who's in your Athletics Hall of Fame. You would think those two would happen side by side, but I don't know. Maybe getting your jersey retired is like this extra layer of Hall of Fame, basically. I don't know. That's obviously I'm not the right person to ask that because I'm not the one in charge. Maybe I can ask, see if there's been any attitude toward that, any consideration for that. But I know it'll probably be a long time before either Keta or Merrill are considered, because the standard seems to be to wait until the player's retired from basketball to even have that conversation. Because if that weren't in consideration, Carroll should have had his jersey retired like 10 years ago. But obviously that didn't happen. We're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, let's talk about the NBA. Season getting started. There's a few games tonight. Some games I believe have already started, because I think they were supposed to start 5:30 local time here. And so we'll get into that. The Jazz do not play tonight. Rockets Thunder should have started 15 minutes ago. But yeah, then the Jazz, they'll get started tomorrow. So we'll talk about that a little bit coming up next here on the Full Court Press.
Cold weather is here, which means you'll be using your gas fireplace again. Let Advanced Fireplace and Stove, the 4-time Best of Northern Utah gold medal winner, help you get it ready for those cold Cache Valley winters. Schedule a service call with one of their service pros today and receive 20% off if you mention this ad. If you're building a new home, Advanced Fireplace and Stove can design and install a heat and glow fireplace. From traditional to modern, Heat and Glow has something for every design and every budget. Find out more at advancedfireplaceandstove.com.
The patio is open. The chips are endless. Drinks on tap. You know it's got to be Cafe Sabor, Cache Valley's best Mexican restaurant, gold winner in the Best of Northern Utah contest. Experience Locals Day every Thursday with a huge burrito, endless chips and soda, only $7.95. That's a complete lunch for just $7.95. Finding any lunch under $10 is nearly impossible. Every Thursday, drinks, chips, and massive burrito, just $7.95. The patio, the sun, the fun at Cafe Sabor in the historic train station on 6th Weston Center in Logan.
Need a great deal near USU? Mention Aggie 79 and score a room at the Baum Motel for just $79. Enjoy charming, homey hospitality in downtown Logan. You'll love the clean, spacious rooms and friendly, attentive staff. Take advantage of free breakfast, free Wi-Fi, and a seasonal outdoor pool. At that price, it can't be beat. $79 rooms with Aggie 79 at the Baum Motel. Value every day of the week. Call 435-752-5220. That's 752-5220.
Olson IT is your source for top quality technology. We carry the latest desktop and laptop PCs in stock, configured to your specific needs, and backed by our award-winning support team. And if your business demands high-performance hardware, we offer custom-built computers that can tackle any task. We also offer great computer accessories like monitors, keyboards, speakers, Fujitsu document scanners, and more. Get a quote today.
Les Olson IT.
Hi everybody, I'm Kristen Chenoweth. When our servicemen and women return from war, they often carry wounds that the rest of us cannot see. Up to 1 in 5 veterans who served in Iraq and Afghanistan are diagnosed with post-traumatic stress. And often, even the best treatment, including medication and therapy, they fall short. Sadly, more than 6,000 veterans die every year from suicide. Thanks to the life-saving power of the human-animal bond, professionally trained service dogs can help. But connecting a veteran with a well-trained service dog can be difficult. Wait lists are long and training can cost tens of thousands of dollars. But service dogs can bring healing. If you're a veteran or know a veteran struggling with post-traumatic stress or traumatic brain injury, please go to AmericanHumane.org to learn about their Pups for Patriots program, which provides dogs to veterans for free of charge. Let's help our veterans heal from the invisible wounds of war.
The Aggies are #1 here. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
At Mountain Valley Heating and Air Conditioning, now's the time to feel the love and the savings. With current tax credits and government rebates, you can save up to 40 and 50% on new heating and cooling systems. Call now. Rebates end this year. Call 435-557-4181. That's 435-557-4181. From residential tune-ups to commercial HVAC projects, Mountain Valley has you covered with highly trained and experienced technicians. So the NBA starts today, this week. Rockets Thunder should have started, has started finally. We're starting to get things going there. They're in the first quarter, tied 7 apiece there. You got Warriors, Lakers. Should be a couple of good games. Jazz getting started tomorrow at home at the Delta Center in Salt Lake. They're 9.5-point underdogs, though, to the LA Clippers, who are a team that I know they're, mired in controversy due to all this stuff with Kawhi Leonard. But they, it's also like, can they get things going with James Harden and Kawhi Leonard? Can they finally get this team off the ground where people have been picking the Clippers like as kind of a dark horse finals favorite, like ever since Kawhi Leonard got there, and they've done jack diddly squat for like their entire tenure there, constantly injured or playoff disappointments. I know the COVID bubble is kind of their one hope. People point to that as the year they would have been good had they not, had the bubble not happened. But I don't know. People say the bubble is invalid for whatever reason, but everyone went through the same thing. So I don't know why that's... Nobody's ever really truly explained to me why that should be taken differently, just because it was obviously really weird. Although that was a disappointing playoffs for me because that the Jazz had some hope. They, Bojan Bogdanovic had surgery. Like they're a team that you could argue had an impact there because they had a player go get surgery on his wrist, thinking, "Oh, the season's over. I'm gonna go have some, off-season recovery," because he could play with that wrist. But it was like, all right, it's off-season. Let's go get it fixed and prepare for next year. And then suddenly they were playing, and the Jazz were without one of their best players. And they end up losing to the Nuggets in what was an epic series, but painful for the Utah Jazz. But it'll be interesting to see how the Jazz approach this season, how things work. Ace Bailey, there's talk about whether or not he's going to be even available, because he had that bilateral knee soreness that took him out of one preseason game, held him out of the last preseason game overall. So is he going to be playing at all? Will he start? What exactly is the rotation going to be? How many of the young players are going to be featured? How are they going to balance minutes between the veterans like George Niang, Kyle Anderson, all these guys? Lauri Markkanen obviously in there. Walker Kessler now straddling the line between being one of the young guys and one of the veterans because he's in year 4 now. So, and he's the longest tenured Jazzman, I think, because he got here before Lauri Markkanen did. So how is all of that going to be a factor in this season? And definitely be looking forward to at least following things. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to watch these games. I've been trying to get the local channel, KJazz, but the antenna that we bought hasn't been working very well. I'm also stalling because I'm trying to look up. It was Sportico who was reporting how much it was going to cost people to watch the NBA. And somebody was reporting, let's see, because they were basically looking at all the different ways you'd have to buy all this thing. So to watch the games on ABC and ESPN, that's $30 a month. And then to watch the games on NBC and Peacock, that's another $11 a month. So let's see, 30 plus 11, then $9 a month for Prime, and then $110 for the season for League Pass, which will include NBA TV. So let's do the math here. So for October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. Let's go through May, because the regular season ends in April, I think. So 7 months of all those monthly fees to watch every game costs $350 plus $110, and that's $460. I think what the total comes out to, $460 if you want to watch every single NBA game this season, which is, mind you, realistically, nobody's doing that. But that's a lot of money just to watch the NBA, but I'll be able to follow along the way Adam Silver intended. With highlights, right? So I haven't watched a lot of the preseason games. But we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. When we come back, we'll finish up talking about Utah State. Utah State volleyball dominating, and then Utah State soccer fighting for what will hopefully be a back-to-back Mountain West title, though mixed between Mountain West tournament titles and regular season titles. Regular season titles probably a little far out of reach for the Aggies in soccer. Very much in reach for volleyball, but a Mountain West title in the conference tournament in the cards for the Aggies in soccer. We'll get to that next here on the Full Court Press.
It's cold outside, but you can keep warm inside with a quality-built, super efficient York furnace. Count on a furnace from York because it's backed by the strongest warranties available. Call Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning, your local York dealer, at 752-7272. Online at advancedheating-ac.com.
We're not comfortable until you are. Advanced Heating and Air.
For 80 years, West Motor Company has been helping Cache Valley drive home in a vehicle they love. And around here, people know Ford and Ram cost less in Preston. Right now, you could save over $10,000 off a brand new Ram heavy-duty Bighorn, or over $12,000 off Dodge Charger RT, and over $5,000 off Jeep Grand Cherokee. Say it with me. Ford and Ram cost less in Preston. Always have, always will. West Motor Company, 80 years strong and still driven to serve you.
Hi, this is Brooke Stevenson.
Ty Smith.
And David Castor with Adams Wealth Advisors. We're truly honored to be named Best of Northern Utah Gold winner for the best financial planner. This community means everything to us, and we're grateful for every customer who made this possible. Thank you for your trust.
Advisory services offered through Adams Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor. For important disclosures and more information, visit adamswealthadvisors.com. That's adamswealthadvisors.com.
This is Jordan with Primrose Home Care and Hospice. As I visit with people on a regular basis, I see many things we can help with. Recent falls, balance training, knee, shoulder, and hip surgeries, memory loss, housekeeping, help with medications, and that's not all. We at Primrose offer the best care in any situation. A great example of this is our preventative care program. While working with your doctor and using our personal approach, we can help prevent many of these situations. For more explanation, visit primrosecare.com or call me at 787-1369. Primrose Home Care and Hospice. We're your home team.
This is McGruff the Crime Dog, and I need you to help me take a bite out of crime. Another teenager fell victim to fake pills. Smells like big crime that needs to be stopped. Where are these pills coming from, and how are kids getting them? Right from under our noses, crooks are targeting kids on social media and selling them counterfeit pills that could seal their fate with the click of a button. It may seem harmless, maybe it doesn't even seem like a drug deal, but it definitely is. So before buying pills online, think about this. Should buying prescription pills be that easy? Think these pills are tested and safe? Think they're the same ones you get from a doctor? You know they're not. Did you know that many fake pills contain fentanyl? And an amount small enough to fit on the tip of a pencil can be lethal. Listen, before buying pills from social media, think again. Learn more at mcgruffpsa.org and go for real. Brought to you by USPTO and the National Crime Prevention Council.
Interviews, analysis, and a little bit of fun mixed in. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Young Power Sports of Logan sponsors our text line, and don't miss the free Avalanche safety class from 3 to 5 p.m. It's on Friday, October 24th from 3 to 5 p.m. Learn from the experts how to stay safe. And then only on Friday the 24th, you can get 50% off all Klim gear, jackets, bibs, gloves, helmets, everything you need to ride warm and safe and in style. And plus, all used snowmobiles are up to $1,000 off. One day only. Again, that's at Young Power Sports of Logan over there by the South Walmart. So go in Friday the 24th. Big day of savings and safety. So a couple quick topics before we hit the end of today's show. Thanks so much for your participation and help. We had that minor hitch there early in the second hour here. But Utah State volleyball and soccer, two great stories for this year. Soccer struggling a bit to live up to some of the expectations of last year, was this all-time season. But this year, still very much in the hunt for a Mountain West title. Probably not in the regular season. They're 8 points down in the standings from Boise State. They will be playing Boise State in the season finale, but Utah State would have to win all three of its last games, and Boise State would have to lose all three of its last games. But the Aggies get 2 games at home in Logan. They're playing Nevada this Thursday at 6 p.m., and then they're playing San Jose at noon on Sunday the 26th, and then they'll be at Boise on October 30th. The Aggies are actually only 2 points away from missing the conference tournament. The top 6 get in, and the Aggies are currently tied for third. They have 12 points. And then Colorado State and Fresno State are tied for 5th at 11 points. But then Grand Canyon, who's 7th, just outside the cut, they're at 10 points. So only 2 behind the Aggies. So the Aggies need to make sure that they're winning these games. But they're playing the 2 teams that are at the bottom of the conference, Nevada and San Jose. So the Aggies should pick up some key points there from those 2 teams. Keyword being should. We'll see how well they do. But then volleyball, they are absolutely ascendant. They are 8-0 in conference play on a 9-game win streak. Their most recent win was over Boise State, who was tied for third. Or tied for second, I think, because they were 5-2. And then Colorado State, San Diego State, they're both 6-2 right now. But the Aztecs have lost 2 in a row. They were tied with the Aggies when both were 6-0, but the Aggies have advanced to 8-0. In conference play, 9 wins overall. And so they're 2 games ahead of the 2 teams tied for second, Colorado State and San Diego State. And they play San Diego State this Thursday at home. So make sure to catch that game. We'll make sure to talk to you guys tomorrow. Be tuned in at 106.9 FM at 1390 AM. The Fan, that's it for us tonight.
Sports Talk Radio, KLGN Logan, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.